On the planet Zarathea, a world of glowing skies and floating cities, Princess Nira stood in the grand palace hall. The air shimmered with soft light, reflecting the golden walls and intricate designs that told the story of her people. She had always loved this palace. It was a place of beauty, history, and power, but today it felt like a cage. Nira's mother, the alien queen, sat on the high throne, her tall figure commanding respect. The queen's skin shimmered with pale silver light, and her eyes held wisdom that came from ruling Zarathea for many cycles. Nira felt her chest tighten as she faced her mother. She had sensed something unusual that morning, something that made her heart beat faster with worry. "Mother, I need to know why," Nira said, her voice trembling slightly. "Why do I have to wed a human?" The queen's expression remained calm, almost unreadable. She did not respond immediately. She let the soft hum of the palace fill the silence, a sound made by the energy flowing through the floating city. Finally, she spoke, her voice smooth but firm. "Nira, the decision was not made lightly. Humans possess qualities that our people lack. Their creativity, their adaptability, and their courage could help Zarathea face the challenges ahead." Nira's eyes widened in disbelief. "But a human? They are so different. How can a human help protect our people? How can I trust someone so unlike us?" The queen stood, her long robes flowing behind her. She moved gracefully, as if she were part of the light itself. "Nira, sometimes strength is not only about power. Sometimes strength is about understanding, learning, and working together. This marriage is not about forcing you. It is about preparing for a future where humans and Zarathians may need each other." Nira shook her head, frustration spilling from her words. "I don't want to marry a human. I don't want to be part of some plan I didn't choose. I am your daughter, and I should have a choice. This is my life, mother." The queen stepped closer, her gaze steady. "I know you feel that way now, Nira, and I do not expect you to understand immediately. But humans have qualities that will surprise you. You must learn to see beyond appearances and remember that the well-being of our people comes first." Nira turned away, pacing across the smooth marble floor. She could hear the whispers of palace guards and attendants, all curious about the unusual meeting. Her heart raced, and anger bubbled inside her. "You say it is for the people, but what about me? What about what I want?" The queen's voice softened. "Your feelings matter, Nira. I do not wish to take away your happiness. But sometimes, duty requires sacrifice. You are not alone. You will meet him soon, and then you may see what I mean. I promise you that I would not have chosen this without careful thought." Nira stopped pacing and faced her mother again. Her large violet eyes, shining with emotion, reflected the light of the palace. "You don't understand. Humans are not like us. They cannot survive in our skies without special suits. They do not have our abilities or our understanding of energy. How can you expect me to, her voice cracked, to bond with one of them?" The queen took a deep breath and placed her hand gently on Nira's shoulder. "Nira, bonds are not always instant. They grow with time. You may find that a human's perspective can teach you things you never imagined. Perhaps you will learn something about yourself as well." Nira pulled away slightly, shaking her head. "I cannot imagine it. I cannot imagine sharing my life with a human. It feels wrong. I feel trapped." "Feeling trapped does not mean you are powerless," the queen said. "You have the strength to shape your experience. Do not let fear close your heart. Look at this as an opportunity, not a punishment. I will not force you, Nira, but I ask you to be open-minded when he arrives. Nira's mind raced. She could imagine the human standing before her, awkward and uncertain, trying to understand her world. She felt a mixture of anger, curiosity, and fear. She did not trust humans easily, and the thought of living with one as a partner seemed impossible. Finally, the queen spoke again, her voice carrying both authority and warmth. His name is Leo. He will arrive at sunset. You will have the chance to meet him in a controlled environment. Observe him. Talk to him. Learn who he is before making any judgments. That is all I ask. Nira's fists clenched at her sides. Sunset. Very well. I will meet him, but do not expect me to like him. The queen nodded, satisfied with Nira's words. That is all I ask. Approach this with caution, but do not close your mind. Sometimes, the greatest lessons come from unexpected places. As the queen left the hall, Nira remained standing, her thoughts spinning. She walked toward the large window overlooking the city, watching the floating towers glow in the soft light of the twin suns. She could see the citizens moving through the sky bridges, their lives continuing without concern for her personal struggles. She felt a mix of isolation and responsibility. Nira pressed her hand against the glass, her reflection staring back at her. How am I supposed to do this? She whispered. How can I share my life with someone so different? How can I trust that this will be right? The palace felt colder now, even though the sun's light filled the sky. Nira knew that the meeting with Leo would change everything. Her life as she knew it might never be the same. She felt a strange mix of fear and anticipation, wondering what this human would be like and whether he could live up to her mother's words. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky with colors Nira had never seen, she realized that tonight would mark the beginning of something she could not yet understand. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, I will meet him. I will see who he is. But I will not be easily convinced. With that, Nira turned from the window, ready to prepare herself for the arrival of the human who would change her life and, perhaps, the future of her world. She did not yet know whether she would resist him or accept him, but she knew that the days ahead would test her courage, her wisdom, and her heart. The twin sons of Zarathea were low in the sky, casting long shadows over the floating city. Princess Nira stood on the palace balcony, her hands gripping the railing. She could see the golden towers shimmering in the fading light and the people moving along the sky bridges below. Her mind raced with thoughts of the human who was about to arrive. Leo, she whispered to herself. The name felt strange on her tongue, foreign in a way that reminded her of the difference between humans and Zarathians. She did not know what to expect, but she knew that tonight would change her life. In the grand landing chamber, the air shimmered with energy as the portal opened. A figure stepped through, a human dressed in a simple, dark uniform. He looked around cautiously, his brown eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. His movements were careful but confident. He carried no weapons, only a small satchel at his side. Nira watched from above, her eyes narrowing. The human's features were simple compared to the elegance of Zarathians. His hair was short and dark, his skin pale under the alien light. He walked with a steady pace, his gaze calm and respectful. Nira could not hide her skepticism. She had imagined someone taller, stronger, perhaps more imposing. This human seemed ordinary, almost fragile. The queen approached from behind, her voice gentle but commanding. Nira, this is Leo. He comes with respect and the hope of friendship between our people. Observe him carefully, but keep your thoughts private for now. Nira nodded but did not respond. She remained on the balcony, her eyes fixed on the human. Leo bowed slightly to the queen, a gesture that felt formal yet sincere. His voice was calm as he spoke. Your Majesty, Princess Nira, I am honored to be here. I have come to learn and to serve in any way that may benefit your people. Nira's eyes narrowed further. Serve? He calls himself a servant already. Does he even understand what life is like here? She muttered under her breath. The queen led Leo to a table where refreshments were arranged. The food looked unusual to him, bright and colorful, glowing softly under the palace lights. He picked up a small piece of fruit and examined it curiously, then tasted it with care. His eyes widened slightly at the flavor, and he smiled politely. Nira watched, trying to imagine herself trusting him. He is polite, she admitted to herself. But politeness does not equal strength. Politeness does not equal loyalty. Leo looked up and noticed Nira observing him. He bowed slightly again. Princess Nira, I hope to learn about your world and your people. I wish to understand your traditions and your life. I know it will take time to earn your trust. Nira felt a flicker of surprise. No human had ever spoken to her like this. Most humans she had heard of were rigid, unyielding, or impatient. This one seemed patient, careful, almost thoughtful. She did not relax, but her curiosity grew. I will watch you, she said finally, her voice steady. Actions speak louder than words. Let us see if you can live up to what you say. Leo nodded. I understand, Princess. I am ready to prove myself in any way I can. The palace guards, who had been watching Leo with suspicion, whispered among themselves. Some doubted his ability to survive in the alien environment. Others were curious, wondering what a human could contribute to Zarathea. Nira ignored their murmurs, focusing only on Leo. The queen observed the interaction quietly. Nira, you must see beyond first impressions. Humans have qualities that Zaratheans sometimes overlook. Strength is not always physical. Courage is not always loud. Watch and learn, but do not judge too quickly. Nira turned back to the balcony, her eyes following Leo as he moved with care through the chamber. He examined the intricate designs on the walls, asking questions politely about their meaning. He listened attentively to explanations from the palace historians and attendants. Nira noticed that he did not rush, did not interrupt, and never displayed arrogance. He is different, she admitted quietly. But different does not mean good. The sun set completely, casting the chamber in a soft, silvery light. Nira descended from the balcony and approached Leo cautiously. Her steps were careful, measured, as if testing the ground before stepping forward. Human, she said, her voice firm, you are in my palace now. Do not misunderstand. I do not trust you. I do not know you. But you will remain under my observation. If you cause trouble, there will be consequences. Leo bowed again, his expression respectful. Princess Nira, I understand. I do not wish to cause trouble. I only wish to learn and to help. Nira studied him closely. His calm demeanor and honesty made her uneasy. She did not know whether she should feel threatened or impressed. She chose to remain neutral. Very well. You may stay in the palace tonight. Tomorrow, you will join me for a guided tour of Zarathea. You will see our customs, our people, and our traditions. You will learn what it means to live here. I will do my best, Princess, Leo said sincerely. Nira turned and began walking away, but she paused at the doorway. Do not think that being polite is enough. Actions matter. Your words mean nothing if your actions fail. Leo nodded once more. I understand. I will act carefully and honorably. That night, Nira could not sleep. She lay in her chamber, staring at the glowing ceiling that depicted the history of her people. Her mind replayed every moment of Leo's arrival. She had expected arrogance, ignorance, or weakness, but instead she found patience, respect, and thoughtfulness. Still, she resisted the feeling growing inside her. Curiosity mixed with wariness. Could a human truly understand her world? Could he survive here, in the skies and the strange environment of Zarathia? Could he really be the ally her mother believed him to be? Morning came quickly, the twin suns rising and bathing the palace in warm light. Nira dressed in a simple ceremonial outfit and prepared to meet Leo for the tour of the city. She kept her expression neutral, determined not to show any weakness. As she descended the stairs to the main hall, Leo waited patiently. He smiled politely and bowed once more. Good morning, Princess Nira. I am ready to begin our tour. Nira nodded, her expression serious. Follow me. Today, you will see Zarathia as few humans have ever seen it. Observe everything. Learn. And remember, your survival here depends on more than courage. It depends on understanding. Leo nodded again, and together they stepped out into the city, the golden towers glowing in the morning light. Nira walked beside him, her mind alert, her eyes searching for signs of strength, intelligence, and courage. She did not yet trust him, but she could not deny that something about him had captured her attention. The people of Zarathia paused to watch the unusual pair. A human walking openly with the princess was rare, almost unheard of. Some whispered in curiosity, others in doubt. Nira ignored them. She focused only on the human beside her, ready to judge every word, every gesture, every choice he made. The adventure had begun, and Nira knew that the days ahead would test both her and Leo. She did not yet know whether he would prove worthy, whether she would ever trust him, or whether their bond could ever grow. All she knew was that his arrival marked the beginning of a journey that would challenge her beliefs, her courage, and the future of Zarathia itself. The morning sun painted the skies of Zarathia with golden light as Princess Nira walked with Leo through the floating city. The towers gleamed like polished gems, and sky bridges stretched between them, carrying citizens to their daily lives. The people glanced at the strange sight of a human walking beside their princess. Some whispered in curiosity, while others frowned with doubt. Nira kept her steps steady, her chin lifted with pride. She wanted to appear strong, even though her mind was full of questions. Leo walked calmly, his eyes scanning the city with fascination. Every detail seemed to capture his attention: the glowing plants that lined the bridges, the energy crystals that powered the buildings, and the graceful flying creatures circling high above. You look at everything as if it is new, Nira said at last, her tone cool. Leo smiled softly. Because it is new to me. Your world is beautiful. Every part of it feels alive. I want to understand it, not just look at it. Nira studied him carefully. She could not deny that his words carried sincerity. Yet she reminded herself that words alone meant nothing. Actions mattered most. Their tour was interrupted when a loud hum echoed through the skies. Citizens stopped and pointed upward. Nira looked up, her heart tightening as she saw a massive shape streaking across the horizon. It was not a ship, nor a creature. It was a burning rock, larger than any building, cutting through the atmosphere with deadly speed. An asteroid, Nero whispered. Her pulse quickened. She had heard of threats from space, but this one was dangerously close. Palace guards rushed to Neera's side. "Princess, we must return you to safety at once," one of them said firmly. But Neera shook her head. "No, I must see what happens. Take me to the council chamber." Leo followed quietly, his expression serious. He did not ask questions or panic. Instead, he walked with steady determination, keeping close to Nero without intruding on her space. In the council chamber, the queen and her advisors gathered around a glowing map of the skies. The asteroid's path was displayed, a red line streaking directly towards Erythea. The advisors spoke in urgent tones, debating solutions. Some argued for using energy cannons. Others believed in redirecting it with gravitational fields. The queen raised her hand for silence. "We must act with wisdom. Panic will not save us." Neera stood at her mother's side, her eyes fixed on the map. "What can be done?" she asked. One advisor shook his head. "Our cannons may not have enough force to break it. If we fire and fail, the debris will scatter and cause greater damage." Another advisor frowned. "Our gravitational field could redirect it, but the calculations are complex. A single mistake could send it crashing into the city." As the debate grew heated, Leo stepped forward. "If I may speak," he said politely but firmly. The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward the human. Neera felt her chest tighten. She half expected him to speak foolishly and embarrass himself. Leo looked at the glowing map carefully. "On Earth, when we faced smaller objects entering our skies, we sometimes used controlled explosions not to destroy them but to change their path. If you combine the power of your cannons with a gravitational pull, you may not need full destruction. You only need to shift its course slightly. Aim not at the center but at one side. Push it off path." The advisors exchanged doubtful looks. "And what if we fail?" one asked. Leo met their gaze calmly. "If you do nothing, you fail for certain. If you act together, you may succeed. The key is timing. Fire the cannon first to weaken its momentum, then use the gravitational pull to bend its course. It will not require as much power as destroying it completely." Neera's eyes widened. His explanation was simple but clear. She had not expected a human to understand the problem so quickly. She turned to her mother, who remained thoughtful. The queen nodded slowly. "A combined approach. It is a risk, but a smaller one than the others." She looked at Leo. "You think like a strategist." Leo bowed slightly. "I only use what I know. Sometimes a simple idea can make a difference." Neera studied him silently. She felt a flicker of something she had not felt before: respect. The queen gave the order. "Prepare the cannons. Align the gravitational field. Follow the timing exactly. Zerathia depends on it." Hours passed in tense preparation. The citizens gathered, watching the skies with fear and hope. The massive asteroid grew closer, its fiery trail burning brighter. Neera stood on the balcony with her mother, the advisors, and Leo. Her hands were clenched, her heart pounding. The cannons fired, beams of concentrated energy striking the side of the asteroid. It shuddered but continued forward. At that moment, the gravitational field activated, pulling at the weakened rock with immense force. The asteroid trembled, shifted, and then, slowly but surely, its path bent away from Zerathia. The skies lit up as the asteroid drifted harmlessly past the planet, breaking apart in distant space. The citizens below erupted in cheers. Relief washed through the city like a wave of light. Nira exhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxing. She turned to see Leo watching the sky with quiet satisfaction, not pride. He did not boast or demand recognition. He simply looked relieved, as if the safety of the planet mattered more than his own credit. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do you see now, Nira? Sometimes strength comes from unexpected places. The human's perspective gave us what we needed." Nira nodded slowly, though her pride resisted the thought. "Yes, mother. He did help. But one success does not prove everything." Leo heard her words but did not argue. He simply bowed respectfully. "I am glad your people are safe. That is all that matters." Nero looked at him closely, her eyes narrowing. He had surprised her once, and that unsettled her. She did not like being unsettled, yet she could not deny the truth. His actions had made a difference. That night, as Zarathea celebrated its survival, Nira sat alone in her chamber, thinking. She had expected Leo to fail, to be weak, to show why he did not belong in her world. Instead, he had shown calm, cleverness, and quiet courage. She whispered to herself, "Perhaps humans are not as simple as I thought. Perhaps he is not as simple as I thought." The thought lingered, refusing to leave. For the first time, Nero felt that her mother's decision might not be as foolish as she had believed. The skies above Zarathea had returned to peace after the asteroid crisis, but inside Princess Nira's heart, a storm still brewed. She walked through the palace gardens, her long cloak trailing behind her, as she tried to make sense of her thoughts. The human, Leo, had surprised everyone. His calm thinking and quick plan had saved the city, yet Nira still struggled to accept it. She stopped under a tall crystal tree whose glowing branches swayed softly in the breeze. "He was lucky," she whispered to herself. "Anyone could have suggested it. It doesn't mean he belongs here." But even as she spoke the words, she remembered the look on his face when the asteroid changed its course. He had not looked proud. He had not demanded thanks. He had only looked relieved that lives were saved. That image kept replaying in her mind, weakening her anger. That evening, Nira found herself drawn to the library chamber. It was a quiet place filled with glowing scrolls and energy tablets that held the history of Zarathea. To her surprise, Leo was already there, sitting cross-legged on the floor, studying a glowing tablet with careful eyes. He looked up when she entered. "Princess Nira," he said, bowing slightly. "I hope I am not intruding. I wanted to learn more about your people's history." Nira raised her eyebrows. "Most humans I have met care little for history that is not their own." Leo smiled gently. "Then perhaps most humans forget the value of listening. If I am to live among your people, even for a short time, I should understand who you are. I cannot ask for your trust if I do not respect your past." Nira hesitated before stepping closer. She looked at the glowing tablet in his hands. "That one tells the story of the first queen. She united the Sky clans and built the first floating city. Many doubted her, but she proved them wrong through patience and wisdom." Leo listened carefully, nodding. "She sounds like a leader who knew that unity is stronger than division. That is rare in any world." Something in his tone caught Nira off guard. He spoke with respect, not just politeness. She found herself sitting across from him, though she did not fully understand why. "Tell me about your world," she said suddenly. "Tell me about Earth." Leo's eyes lit up. Earth is smaller than Zarathea, but full of life. We have oceans that stretch farther than the eye can see, forests that breathe with green, and deserts that whisper with silence. Our people are many and different. We argue often, but when danger comes, we find ways to stand together. Nira tilted her head, curious despite herself. And what makes humans strong? You do not have wings. You cannot breathe in high skies. Your bodies are fragile compared to ours. Leo thought for a moment before answering. Perhaps what makes us strong is not our bodies, but our will. When we fall, we rise again. When we fail, we try again. We do not always win, but we keep moving forward. That is how we survive. Nira studied him silently. His words carried a weight she could not ignore. She remembered times when Zarathians had given up quickly if the odds were poor. Yet this human spoke of persistence as if it were his people's greatest treasure. Over the next few days, Nero began to spend more time with Leo in secret. She told herself it was only to observe him, to see if he would reveal weakness. Yet she found herself asking him questions and listening closely to his answers. One afternoon, she took him to the training grounds. Soldiers were practicing with energy spears, their movements sharp and powerful. Nira crossed her arms and looked at Leo. Can you fight? Or do humans only talk of courage? Leo chuckled softly. We do fight, though not always with spears. Show me how, and I will try. The captain of the guards handed Leo a practice spear. At first, his movements were clumsy. The spear felt heavy in his hands, and the soldiers laughed quietly among themselves. Nira smirked, expecting him to give up. But Leo did not stop. He listened to the captain's instructions, tried again, stumbled, and tried once more. Sweat covered his face, but he kept moving, adjusting his stance each time. Slowly, his strikes grew steadier. His grip grew firmer. By the end of the session, he was not a master, but he was no longer a beginner. Nira's smile faded into surprise. You do not quit easily, she said. Leo wiped his forehead and grinned. If you quit the first time you fall, you never learn. On Earth, even children are taught to stand again after falling. That night, Nira sat in her chamber, thinking of his persistence. She could not deny that she respected it. Her people were skilled, yes, but they often relied on natural gifts. Humans, it seemed, relied on effort. That thought unsettled her but also intrigued her. Another day, Nira invited Leo to join her on a sky bridge overlooking the city. The wind whipped through their hair as they stood high above the ground. Do you fear heights? She asked, half teasing. Leo looked down at the endless drop, then back at her with a calm smile. I do. My legs feel heavy, and my heart beats fast. But fear is only a feeling. It does not decide my actions. I can stand here with you because I choose to. For the first time, Nero laughed softly. You are strange, human. Most would hide their fear, yet you admit it freely. Admitting fear is not weakness, Leo said. It is the first step to facing it. Nira's laughter faded into thought. She realized that each time she tried to test him, he gave her an answer she had not expected. Slowly, she began to see him not just as a human but as a person with his own strength. Still, she kept these feelings hidden from her mother. She did not want the queen to know that she was beginning to see value in the human. She feared it would make her seem weak or easily convinced. One evening, as the sun set and painted the skies in shades of orange and purple, Nira stood at her balcony. Leo's words echoed in her mind about persistence, about fear, about unity. She whispered to herself, perhaps he is not like other humans. Perhaps he is something more. But even as she admitted this, she clenched her fists. She was not ready to surrender her doubts. She was not ready to accept her mother's choice. The bond between her and Leo was still fragile, and she did not yet know if it could grow into something real. What she did know was that the human had begun to change her heart, little by little, with every lesson, every action, and every quiet moment they shared. The palace of Zarathea stood tall and glowing under the twin moons. Its golden towers reflected the silver light, casting a calm beauty over the city. But inside the grand halls, unease grew like a shadow. Princess Nira had begun to see Leo in a new light, though she tried hard to hide it. His patience, his persistence, and his quiet courage had left marks on her thoughts. Still, doubt lingered, and she told herself not to trust too quickly. What neither she nor Leo knew was that others in the kingdom were watching closely. A group of nobles from a rival faction despised the idea of a human joining the royal family. To them, it was a shameful act, a sign of weakness. They believed Zarathea needed only its own strength, not the aid of outsiders. In secret, they planned to strike against the queen and her daughter, certain that the presence of the human would bring ruin. It began quietly. Whispers spread through the palace corridors. Servants reported strange movements at night. Guards noticed missing supplies from the armory. Yet no one dared to speak openly until it was too late. One evening, Nero was walking with Leo in the inner garden. The glowing plants shimmered around them, filling the air with a soft fragrance. Nero had agreed to show him the sacred fountains, where Zarathians came to reflect on their choices. "You humans always speak of persistence," she said as they walked. "But what if persistence only leads to pain? What if you rise again and again, only to fall each time?" Leo thought for a moment. "Then at least you can say you tried. To me, giving up is worse than failing. At least when you try, you learn something new." Nero looked at him, her eyes narrowing. "You make everything sound simple." "Life is not simple." "Life is never simple," Leo said gently. "But sometimes the way we look at it can be." Before Nira could reply, a sharp sound split the air. The garden lights flickered. From the shadows, figures in dark armor appeared, their energy blades glowing. Nira gasped as she recognized the crest on their armor. It belonged to the noble faction that had long opposed her mother. The leader stepped forward, his voice filled with anger. "Princess Nira, tonight you will see the truth. Your mother's choice to ally with a human has weakened Zarathea. We cannot allow it to continue. The throne must be cleansed of this shame." Nira's heart raced. She reached for the dagger at her side, her eyes burning with fury. "You dare threaten the crown inside the royal palace? You are traitors." The leader sneered. "We are saviors. You will thank us when this is over." The rebels rushed forward. Nira drew her dagger, ready to fight, but she was outnumbered. The guards who should have protected the garden were nowhere in sight, likely misled or bribed. For the first time in years, Nira felt a rush of fear she could not control. Leo stepped in front of her without hesitation. He had no blade, no armor, only his bare hands. Yet his stance was firm, his body ready to shield her. "Leo, move," Nira hissed. "You cannot fight them. You will be killed." He glanced back at her, his eyes calm but determined. "You are the princess. Your life matters more than mine. If I fall, you must survive." Before Nira could argue, The rebels attacked. Leo moved quickly, grabbing a fallen staff from the garden wall. He blocked the first strike, the energy blade sparking against the staff. The force shook his arms, but he held on. With quick thinking, he swept the legs of one attacker, sending him crashing to the ground. Nira joined the fight, her dagger flashing in the moonlight. She struck with precision, but the rebels pressed harder. Leo fought with every ounce of strength he had, dodging blows, blocking strikes, and using the environment to his advantage. He was not a trained warrior, yet his persistence kept him standing. One rebel managed to slip past and lunged toward Nero with his blade. Leo saw it in the corner of his eye. Without thinking, he threw himself in front of her. The blade slashed across his shoulder, and he cried out in pain, but he did not fall. Instead, he turned, using his injured arm to push the rebel back. Leo, Nira gasped, her eyes wide with shock. He was bleeding, yet he continued to fight, his teeth clenched, his body refusing to give in. The sound of reinforcements echoed through the garden. Palace guards, alerted by the disturbance, charged in with their weapons ready. The rebels, realizing their plan had failed, began to retreat. Their leader shouted in frustration before vanishing into the shadows. Silence returned to the garden, broken only by the heavy breathing of Nira and Leo. Guards rushed to secure the area, but Nira ignored them. She dropped to her knees beside Leo, who had fallen against the base of a crystal tree. His face was pale, but his eyes still held their calm determination. "You fool," Nira whispered, her voice trembling. "Why would you put yourself in front of me? Why would you risk your life for mine?" Leo gave a weak smile. "Because you matter more than I do. A leader must be protected, even if it costs everything." Tears stung Nira's eyes, though she quickly blinked them away. She pressed her hand against his wound to stop the bleeding. "You are reckless. You do not belong in our world, yet you fight as if you were born here." Leo chuckled softly, though it hurt him. "Maybe belonging is not about where you are born. Maybe it is about what you choose to stand for." Nira stared at him, her heart pounding. His words struck her deeper than any blade could. For the first time, she felt the walls around her heart begin to crack. He had risked his life for her, without hesitation. No human, no Zirathian, no one had ever done that for her before. When the queen arrived moments later, her face was pale with shock. She rushed to Nira's side, then looked at Leo with a mix of concern and respect. "The human saved you?" she asked. Nira nodded slowly, her voice low but firm. "Yes, mother. He saved me. He saved us both." The queen placed a hand on Leo's uninjured shoulder. "Then perhaps the future I hoped for is not so distant. Rest now, brave one. You have proven what words alone could never show." As the guards carried Leo away to be treated, Nira stood frozen. Her thoughts were a storm of confusion, gratitude, and something new she could not name. She had doubted him, tested him, even scorned him. Yet when danger struck, he had placed himself between her and death without a second thought. That night, as she stood alone in her chamber, Nira whispered to herself, "Why would a human care so much for me? Why would he choose my life over his own?" The answer did not come, but the question stayed in her heart, heavier than ever before. The palace had not known such tension in many years. After the attack in the garden, whispers of betrayal spread through every corridor. Guards doubled their patrols. Servants hurried with nervous steps. Even the nobles who once spoke proudly now lowered their voices, unsure of who could be trusted. Princess Nero walked through the halls, her mind heavy with questions. The image of Leo standing against the rebels haunted her. His bleeding shoulder, his steady eyes, his voice telling her that her life mattered more, it played again and again in her thoughts. She tried to dismiss it, to convince herself he was only acting out of duty. But the truth was clear. Leo had risked everything because he cared, not because he was commanded. Nera entered the royal chamber where her mother, the queen, was meeting with advisors. Maps and scrolls covered the table, showing signs of the asteroid still moving towards Erythea. The crisis was not over. They had pushed it back with calculations and energy shields, but it was only delayed. More work was needed, and the people grew restless. The queen looked up as Nera entered. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed weariness. "Daughter, you have seen what danger our kingdom faces. The asteroid is still a threat, and now betrayal rises from within. The people look to us for strength. They must believe in a future of unity, not division." Nera folded her arms, her voice sharp. "And you think a human is the answer to this unity?" The queen studied her carefully. "You saw him, Nera. He fought without fear. He bled for you. He stood as one of us when even our own nobles turned against the crown. Can you truly say his presence weakens us?" Nera wanted to argue, but the words would not form. Her pride demanded resistance, yet her heart remembered the moment Leo had shielded her. That evening, Nera visited the medical chamber. The scent of herbs filled the air, and soft light glowed from crystal lanterns. Leo lay on a healing bed, his arm wrapped in silver cloth that pulsed with energy. He looked pale, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. "You should be resting," Nera said, trying to sound stern. "I am resting," Leo replied with a faint smile. "Though your people's medicine feels more like lightning than comfort." Nera almost smiled but quickly hid it. She sat beside him, her voice quiet. "Why did you do it? You could have run. You could have let the guards handle it. Yet you stood there with nothing but a stick and your bare hands." Leo's gaze softened. "Because you were in danger. And because I made a promise to protect, even if I am only one man. I don't have the strength of your warriors, but I can still stand in the way of harm." His words struck her again. She had grown up among warriors who prized strength above all. Yet this human, fragile compared to them, had shown courage no strength could measure. "You are strange, Leo," she whispered. "You bleed so easily, and yet you refuse to fall. Perhaps my mother sees something I cannot." Leo's smile faded, and his voice grew serious. "This is not about your mother, Nera. This is about you. What do you see?" Nera froze, caught by the question. What did she see? She had seen his courage. She had seen his loyalty. And deep inside, she had felt something else to respect. For days afterward, Nera wandered between duty and emotion. The council demanded answers. Should the princess agree to the union, or should she refuse and risk the alliance? The queen gave her daughter freedom to decide, though it was clear she hoped for acceptance. On the night of the great council gathering, the palace hall was filled with nobles, guards, and scholars. The queen sat upon her throne, and beside her stood Nera. At the far end of the hall, Leo entered, his arm still wrapped in healing cloth but his step steady. Murmurs spread among the nobles. Some looked at him with suspicion, others with respect. The queen raised her voice. "Citizens of Zarathea, you have seen the trials we face. The heavens send us a challenge, and shadows rise from within. But hope is not lost. Today, a choice must be made not only for the crown, but for the future of all. She turned to Nira. Daughter, the choice is yours. Will you accept this union, not as duty, but as a path forward? Or will you refuse, and let division remain? The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to Nira. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she lifted her chin, meeting the gaze of her people. At first, she spoke slowly. I was angry when I heard my mother's plan. I thought it was weakness to tie our future to a human. I thought no one outside our kind could understand us. But I was wrong. She looked at Leo, and her voice grew stronger. When traitors raised their blades against me, he did not run. When fear should have broken him, he stood. He fought not because he was told to, but because he chose to. In him, I saw courage greater than strength. In him, I saw the unity my mother spoke of. The crowd stirred, whispers filling the hall. Some looked surprised, others nodded in agreement. Nira placed her hand over her heart. I will not refuse this union. I choose to accept it not out of duty, but out of respect. If a human can stand for Zarathea, then I can stand with him. A wave of voices rose in the hall. Some cheered, others muttered, but the decision was made. The queen's eyes glistened with pride as she stood and raised her hand for silence. Then it is settled. A new bond begins today, one that will carry us into the future. Leo stepped forward, his face calm but touched with emotion. He bowed before the queen, then turned to Nira. For a brief moment, their eyes locked. No words were spoken, but an understanding passed between them. That night, as the halls quieted and the people returned to their homes, Nira stood on the palace balcony, looking at the stars. The asteroid still glowed faintly in the distance, a reminder of the danger yet to come. But for the first time, she did not feel alone in facing it. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Leo joined her, his gaze also fixed on the sky. You made your choice, he said softly. Yes, Nira replied. And I hope I chose well. You did, Leo answered. Because whatever comes, we face it together. Nira breathed deeply, the cool night air filling her lungs. For the first time in her life, the path ahead felt uncertain yet strangely hopeful. She turned to Leo, and though she did not smile, her eyes shone with quiet resolve. The twin suns of Zarathea rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky with soft shades of gold and silver. The palace stood tall against the light, its crystal towers glowing as if touched by fire. For the first time in many years, the city below felt alive with hope. Citizens filled the streets, speaking in excitement about the union between their princess and the human who had proven his courage. Inside the palace, preparations were underway for the great ceremony. Banners of blue and gold hung from every wall, and the halls echoed with music played on ancient instruments. Servants carried flowers that glowed softly, spreading them across the floors and balconies. It was not only a royal event but also a symbol of change, a moment that would mark the beginning of a new era for all of Zarathea. Princess Nira stood before a mirror in her chamber. Her ceremonial dress shimmered with threads of starlight, and her crown rested gently upon her brow. Yet her heart beat with nervous energy. She had chosen this path herself, but the weight of it pressed down on her shoulders. Her mother, the queen, entered quietly. She looked at her daughter with warmth and pride. You are ready, the queen said. Nira turned, her voice soft but steady. I have made my choice, mother, but I still fear what lies ahead. Our people do not fully accept him. Some still whisper against this union. The queen placed a hand on Nira's shoulder. True change never comes without resistance. But courage is not the absence of fear, Nira. Courage is walking forward even when fear remains. You have that courage. And so does he. Nira nodded, drawing strength from her mother's words. Meanwhile, Leo stood in another chamber, dressed in ceremonial robes gifted by the palace. They were strange compared to the clothes of his home world, but he wore them with respect. His arm was still bandaged, yet he stood tall. As he looked out the window at the gathering crowd, he wondered how many of them truly wished for this union to succeed. A guard entered and spoke softly. It is time. The great hall of the palace filled with nobles, scholars, warriors, and citizens chosen to witness the ceremony. The air was thick with expectation. At the far end of the hall, a balcony opened to the city below, so that all could see what would happen. The queen took her place at the center, her presence commanding silence. She raised her voice so all could hear. Today, we witness more than a union. We witness a promise. A promise that differences do not divide us, but can bring us strength. Today, my daughter, Princess Nira, and the human ambassador, Leo, stand together for the future of Zarathia. Leo entered first, walking with steady steps despite the many eyes upon him. Some in the crowd looked at him with doubt, but others with admiration. Then Nira entered, her gown shimmering as she moved gracefully. The sight of her brought quiet gasps from the audience. She carried herself with dignity, her chin lifted, her eyes calm. When they met at the center of the hall, Leo bowed respectfully. Nira looked at him, and though her expression remained formal, her heart felt strangely lighter. She saw not just the human outsider but the man who had stood before blades to protect her. The queen raised her hand, holding a crystal orb that glowed with light. Do you, Princess Nira, choose to stand with this human, not as duty, but as your path? Nira's voice rang clear. I choose it. I stand with him, by my will and my heart. The queen turned to Leo. And you, Leo of Earth, do you choose to stand with this princess, to share her burdens and her hopes, not as obligation, but as your path? Leo's voice was steady. I choose it. I stand with her, with all that I am. The queen lowered the orb, its light spreading over them both. Then by this vow, let unity begin. From this day forward, let humans and Zarathians walk side by side. The hall erupted with sound. Some cheered loudly, while others clapped with polite restraint. Yet the moment had been sealed. On the balcony, the people of the city saw the pair standing together, and for many, it sparked a sense of wonder. Later that night, after the celebrations had begun, Nira and Leo stepped onto the balcony alone. Below, the city glowed with lights, and the people sang songs of hope. For the first time, Zarathians and visiting humans joined voices in harmony. Nira leaned on the railing, her eyes fixed on the stars. Do you understand what this means, Leo? From this day forward, every step we take will be watched. Every choice we make will be judged. Leo stood beside her. I understand. But I also know we are not alone. Your people, my people, they may struggle at first. But in time, they will see what we see now. Nira turned to him. And what is that? That together, we are stronger, Leo replied simply. For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the stars. Among them, the faint glow of the asteroid still lingered. It was a reminder that danger had not vanished. But now, neither of them feared it. The queen joined them briefly, her face calm but thoughtful. This union is only the first step. The trials ahead will test you both, but I believe you will succeed. For the first time in many years, I feel hope not just for the throne, but for the hearts of our people. Nira placed her hand on her chest, feeling the steady beat within. Then we will not fail, mother. We will carry this hope forward. As the queen returned to the hall, Leo looked at Nira, his expression quiet but filled with resolve. Your people may not have chosen me, Nira. But you did. And I will not let you regret it. For the first time, Nira allowed herself a small smile. Then let us face what comes. Together. The music from the hall rose higher, blending with the voices of the city. The stars above shone brighter, as if the universe itself had blessed this new beginning. And as Nira and Leo stood side by side, the future of Zarathia unfolded not in fear, but in unity, courage, and the promise of tomorrow.